Time to finally tackle this dreaded spot here. I sanded all the paint back to where there was clean bare metal and marked it off. I just zipped it with the cutoff wheel, made it most of the way through. It looks like this bottom right corner needs to be hit a tad more, and then we're going to try and break it out of there, grab it with some pliers or bend it with a screwdriver. Would like to try and keep this shape as good as I can to mimic off of, but I doubt that it's going to stay together in one piece. Alright, not so bad. Cut kind of deep into that inside layer. Actually, you can feel the cut on the backside. It started to bulge through there. That's okay, no biggie. Peel this tape off here. So we got our rough shape that we need to make here. Probably gonna use some pretty thin stuff just so it's easy to work with. And yeah, this lower area is gonna be the issue, and this curved area. This stuff is so thin and so tight up against this inside panel that it's gonna be hard to get it smooth. We're gonna have to use really thin stuff and probably still sand it down smooth to here because this is super duper thin right there. But right now I'm gonna get the air blower, try to blow all this out, try to clean all this up as best as I can so we can prevent any future rusting. And we'll hit it with that weld through primer, so front side, and hit this on the front side and hit the new piece on the back side, so that hopefully that does not happen again. We also welded these little plates in the floor. If you guys remember, had a little hole back there, so that allows us to basically complete the lower section here. Got our template. It's pretty close enough. Make it a little bit big just so we have some room for error in case we cut a little too small. Can always sand it down, but it's kind of hard to fill gaps when it's this thin. So like I said, we got to clean all this out, cut this out, get it shaped, and then we'll make sure everything's good to go. Got the rough shape and size all down. A lot of sanding to get it right, but it's worth it to spend the extra time to make it look good than just rush it. Problem I'm having is that this inside layer is so it's such a tight fit how they originally had it. I assume they, I guess, spot welded it. I'm not exactly sure, but just a very tight fit, and this metal I'm using is a good amount thicker than what was existing here, if the camera will focus. But what we did was grind this metal down real thin in the areas where it's making contact here. So we'll probably have to sand it down here, mostly just this lower edge on this piece of metal, to allow us to sink it in as much as we need to. But we got a pretty good fit. Still got to clean out that piece, the inside. But what we'll do is we'll tack it in all these spots where it's sitting really good. I like to have it slightly lower and recessed from the existing metal so that we can build the weld up kind of just like that. So we'll get it tacked everywhere where it fits good, and then we'll get the hammer and beat these edges over to make it fit where it needs to go. and then we'll use body filler to blend the curves accordingly. But it's looking pretty good. Took the door off of the driver's side. We ordered up the rocker panels for both sides. I also ordered the rear quarters off of MK1 Gulf because we have to do these inside wheel well patches, and I figured it doesn't really make sense to patch this if this outer skin's gonna come off and we're gonna have to re-weld in there. So before we paint anything in the wheel well, we are going to do the rear quarters, do the inside wheel well, do the rocker. We're just gonna do all the body work, pretty much everything that's down low, and that is in the area of being painted. So I just drilled out all these spot welds here. There might be one or two that I missed. I started chiseling it apart. Seems to be working well. So we're just gonna break all those spot welds loose. We have this piece here off of the Outback that I cut out, hoping I can use that to cap this area, possibly, maybe. As you can see, the rocker actually goes underneath of this panel, and this is actually part of the rocker as well. There's probably a few spot welds along here. So I'm going to attempt to drill any spot welds that are visible through the rust, but I think I'm going to make a template for this piece here. Probably going to have to be two pieces, maybe one piece here and another piece here. Probably make a template for that. Hopefully not have to come into past this curve, even though it's pretty crunchy right there. So we'll see what happens. I'd like to leave this curve there though. It will save me a lot of time of bending and shaping. So we're just going to tear this apart and see how it looks, get a rough idea of what the plan of attack is going to be. Alright, we just split that seam all the way across. It's definitely still connected to this panel. It's definitely still connected to this panel. I see like one or two spot welds there. We're gonna have to clean this up and figure out what's going on in this area. Grind all this paint back. So these replacement rockers, not quite the same shape as the original. These are from the Loyale, Leon, whatever, the legacy of back in the day. So what I ended up having to do is kind of piece the old top piece of the rocker to the bottom piece of the new one. Still not exactly right, because as you can see here, this is where the lip starts to bend, and on the new piece it starts to bend down here. So it's about like 3/8 to 1/4 inch off, and that also it's kind of messing with the way the door lines up. I originally was trying to make it work with the all original pieces. I actually took where the pinch weld would be, I flattened that flat to this angle, and then I came back deeper and bent it farther back so that this lip was taller, hoping to fix my issues and bring this up tighter to the door. Still didn't really work out though, and I ended up doing this, piecing the two pieces together. It's not the best, but not the worst. This area is ugly from being hammered, obviously, but I don't know. And it also kind of has a curve in it right there, but that's kind of naturally the way it wants to be. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna get it much better than that with the tools and metal that I have. I kind of wish I had just tried to make this bottom piece myself, honestly, but oh well, it is what it is. We'll probably weld it together like that. Still waiting on the welding supplies. You need more wire. Ordered regular 035 wire, what I normally use, and then I ordered some 023 for all this bodywork. My buddy Eddie recommended I use it for the bodywork because it burns at a lot lower temp, so it won't be burning through this metal as easily. But we got to unscrew this, and there's grinding to be done in here. We're gonna paint it really good, seam seal it, all that. But this is probably how it's gonna look. I might fill this edge up with a little bit of filler just to bring it out a little bit. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Doesn't look bad when you're just looking at it like that, but when you really get down there and look at the gap, it's like kind of noticeable. And then when you compare it to OEM, how it's supposed to look, it's really noticeable. There's really barely any gap at all. Like I can't even stick my finger in there past like the first little bit of my fingernail. And on this side, I can pretty much fit my finger up in there. Like my finger goes in there. So definitely not nearly as tight. I'm pretty sure the door molding or the door seal will take care of that, no problem. Not really worried about water getting up in there, just more or less worried about the look of it. This side will probably do the same thing just to maybe save us some work, hopefully. I'll probably just cut it either on this line or this line, or even this line maybe. Probably cut it on this line to start, and then if we have to, we can go higher up. But probably cut it there and then do all the pinch welds how we did on the other side, and just make the bottom piece work with what we got, because it's not really worth undoing all these spot welds. All this is really solid still, and there's a little bit of rust right there, but I'm really not worried about that. Yeah, I think that's the plan. And we gotta fix up here obviously. That's right. We got the quarter panels in. And then what does that say? VW Golf. What the hell? This ain't no Golf. But if you look at it, it actually fits pretty good. If you position it correctly. But we'll trim this line right here, and hopefully make it fit that body line. We might have to drop it down a hair. Maybe tuck the wheel even more than originally anticipated, but should come out pretty decent. This is what a guy in England, I believe it was England is where he lives. This is what a guy in England used, and it looked really good. So hopefully we can make it look as good as he did. And then, like we said, for these rockers, well, it's not tight anymore, but I unclamped it because we're gonna take the screws out, and we're gonna trim this inside rocker, the back side of it. It's hanging down a little, and we want this to tuck over it, so we're gonna trim that. And then we're probably gonna go inside of here, clean it all up, paint it, seal it, seam sealer. We might have to weld a couple spots still, and then just get it all ready, and then we'll start working on that front corner up there. We gotta make some pieces up there, and then probably cut the other side along here and start making this bottom piece fit. Got this area somewhat figured out. We're gonna trim this. First, we're gonna grind this inside edge to try to bring it in more. We're probably not gonna be able to bring it in too much more because it's nearly touching there. It's mostly in this middle part, but it's not gonna bring it over much. So we'll have to trim this some more, do some grinding all around just to smooth all the edges out. We got this front piece. That's probably as good as it's gonna look. And then this piece will get bent down into there. We'll weld that seam, grind it all up. As you can see right here, I'm gonna cut it here to make it match this line, and we'll bang it in smooth to this metal. So it'll be a pretty good transition, hopefully, once this is all cut and there's room to bend it. And just weld this smooth, drill a hole, or get a screw, drill a hole, and weld these together. And then we'll trim this line to match all of that. So should look pretty good in the end, hopefully. Originally I was thinking about cutting this little square out and putting a little plate there, but honestly, the part that the door actually physically bolts to is like a 1/4 inch thick, and that is in decent condition. I'm just gonna blow the rust out of here and just clean it up really, really good, get all the loose stuff away, and just paint it. Like here, same thing, just grind it really, really good with the flat disc and that sanding wheel, and then maybe do like 1 coat of the fiberglass filler just to fill in the rough like deposits. But I'm real happy with how this looks. Honestly, didn't think this piece was going to come out as good as it did in one piece. I figured I'd have to make it out of at least 2 pieces. Self-tappers are the way to go with bodywork. It's almost better to leave the metal behind it. Well, if there's structure behind it, it's even better. Like here, I cut it out, but there's still something behind the screw to. sometimes it's better to leave the metal there, shape your panel to the existing panel using the screws, and then take it off, cut out the old stuff, put it back in. Helps you get the shape a lot better. If you don't have like real metal working tools, it's kind of a pain to bend metal in multiple directions. Like this, it's being bent down, but it's also being curved up at the same time, which is pretty tough to do, especially when you're trying to bend it in here, back out, down here. There's a lot of curves going on, a lot of curves and bends. So I'm getting a lot better than I was in the beginning though, but we pretty much got this side fully completed, or fully mocked up, I should say. Not even close to completed, but now we just gotta do these cuts, grind it all up, make it fit 100%, and then when the welding wire gets here, we'll be able to weld it up. Tranny mount fully welded up. We hit all these pieces with the weld through primer on the back side and on the box tubing down below. All that's coated as good as possible. Welded it all up, just ready to go. We just got to clean it up and then spray it with the epoxy primer and spray it with the gloss black. Alright, we've been working on the rockers. This side we realized that the top part of the rocker where the door sits is not, the bend that comes on this panel is not exactly correct. So we changed up the plan on the passenger side, and we left the upper skin is in decent condition. A couple little pinholes right there, but you should be able to fill those. So what we're gonna do, it's a little hard to get it exactly in position with one hand, but that's roughly what it's gonna look like. This will get pushed up, all look good, and then we have a piece to sit here. It's over on the ground. I just painted it. We hit anywhere where there's going to be two pieces of metal touching each other, butted up against each other. We use the weld through primer. We're going to see how it works. Hope it works as it is advertised. We're gonna get the epoxy primer and we're gonna spray all up on the inside in here before we weld this in there. So that'll all be coated. Probably hit this lip with the seam sealer. This piece here, I had to make that. You probably can't notice much in the video, but you can see in person. Had to remake this piece, so I just bent the little lip, same as here. I miscalculated a little bit, but it's all good. this piece I had to remake. It's just kind of a support piece. This piece gets spot welded to it, and then the rocker is supposed to get spot welded here. My bend is a little iffy, but we did that. And then inside we still have to do the floor and an inner skin. So yesterday I welded all of the trans tunnel all the way around. The front also had a pretty big gap to fill right there. So this is done. This is pretty much finalized. There's a pretty big gap here that I don't necessarily feel like making a piece of metal to fit in there. Haven't made a game plan there yet, but we made this piece. It's gonna sit. It's gonna sit. Let's go underneath. Oh, I'm stepping on my rocker. That's not good. This piece will go. Let's see if we can do this. This piece will go something like that. Get welded up. But as you can see, there's a little hole right there. I think, as much as I don't want to, I think we will weld as high up as we can go, and then we'll probably just stuff some caulk up in there because it's really not an integral area, and it's most likely not going to get much dirt up in there. If anything, it's going to be slinging grease / oil up in there from the drive shaft, so it should stay pretty well oiled and free of rust. We gotta scuff up all these rear areas, trailing arm mount area, and we gotta sand that up and hit it with the seam sealer. So pretty much we gotta paint epoxy in here. I forgot to bring the filters for the spray gun, so we couldn't use the spray gun today, and I didn't want to open the can of epoxy primer unless I knew I was going to use the whole can. So we got an epoxy primer a couple spots, seam seal a few spots, re-epoxy, and then we can weld these rockers on. Well, weld this plate on, weld the rockers on both sides, then do this floor. Then we can basically clean this entire inside, grind all these welds down, epoxy, seam seal over all the welds, epoxy again, and then hit it with the gloss black. We got to do a little bit of stuff up here. We got to make a plate to cover those, a couple pinholes from the plasma we got to weld up, and just a couple spot welds on these brackets. I want to get rid of that, but we're making good progress. Interior is probably, I'd say, 90% done. Just really those things and the paint. And then this is all done. I made this piece. It fits pretty good. As you saw, the rocker fits pretty well. So yeah, we're getting there. Basically, the rocker is the main welding left to be done. Then we have to drop the engine and the cross member, all that good stuff. I was thinking about doing that this weekend, but I wanted to wait because I finally ordered up my rad fans, and I just want to confirm that they fit and everything's good there, and we don't have to make any modifications, even though there's not really much modification to be done. But I want to just confirm, while it's all in here, I want to just confirm that the fan fits before I drop the engine and the cross member. But tomorrow after work, I'll come up here, hit some areas with the spray gun, most likely with the epoxy, and then we'll be ready to start welding these rockers on. The fans, the one should be here this week, the other should be here in like another week or two. Amazon and all the shipping companies are kind of iffy right now with the whole corona thing, so it is what it is, but we're getting there. Once we get these rockers done and we get this engine out, we're really going to be able to do a lot. There's not much work to be done in these wheel wells. It mostly just has to be sanded up and painted. Like, this has to get sanded, and for some reason I didn't seam seal it originally, but this, I don't like how this plate is rusting for some reason. I don't know what's different about this one from this one. A little bit of rust up in there as well, which I don't like, but we'll sand it away. But yeah, there's not much work to be done in the wheel wells or even in the engine bay for that matter. We just have to do these caps on the strut towers, weld the strut towers, make a little piece for down here where the coolant hose goes, and then basically sand it all, smooth out any filler areas that are bothering me, that are visible, and then and do that plate right there, and we're done. We're like really getting there. I know it seems like we're not. Trust me, it doesn't seem like it is to me either, but we're getting there. Back end's like 85-90% done. Just needs to be re-primed once more and then raptored. This is like 60-70% done, and this is already like 80% done. So we're really getting there. And then comes the bodywork, the external bodywork, like the rear quarters. The hood has a rust spot. The tailgate has a rust spot. I think the fenders are a little rusty. The bottom sill of these doors are a little rusty. So then we can do all that. But the good news is all of these pieces, majority of those pieces can be fixed off of the car. So that means we could put the car all back together, technically, and drive it around without doors, quarters, hoods, etc. So we're getting there. Hope you guys aren't sick of me saying the same thing over and over again. And I'll get some footage tomorrow.